Lewis coming to you from the beautiful metaverse. And welcome to Midday with Reverend Don. And today is Friday, so it's our last broadcast of the week. And thank you for joining us. If you have any comments you'd like to make, any questions you'd like to ask, any subjects you'd like to discuss, please type them in whatever format you're watching the program. They'll appear in my chat room, and I will certainly address them. I want to start by talking about the changes that you see going on behind me. You can see that my library books are shifting around on the shelves, and shelves are beginning to empty because my library is for sale. I have shepherded this library for decades, but now the time has come to part with it. Not every single book. There are pieces I will be keeping, but most of it is for sale. And if you would like to consider buying any of them, and some of them are rather rare, you can find it on my Facebook page or Sir Edward's Facebook page, that is Ed Hubbard. We'll be using our personal Facebook pages to facilitate the sale. And this has already begun, and so you can see from the emptying shelves, and it will be continuing until they're all gone. Hello to Mary in the chat room. Good to see you. Yesterday, I sold a copy of Gardner's Egyptian Grammar to a good friend of mine who is very involved with Egyptian spirituality. I was very happy to see it go to that specific person. Let it go for much less than its value, but I was happy to see it go to the right person. And that, generally speaking, is my attitude. I'm also putting up for sale a great deal of jewelry, most of which belong to my mother and or my grandmother. These will begin coming up this afternoon, probably late afternoon, and I will be offering those. This piece that I'm wearing today belonged to my grandmother. It's a garnet necklace from probably the 1920s, possibly the early 30s. It will not be offered because it has too much personal significance, but other pieces, just as interesting, are being offered. My mother left 8 boxes of jewelry when she died. I believe there are probably in excess of 400 pieces, which range from high-quality costume jewelry, particularly from a company known as Emmons, which I believe is eminently collectible. My mother at one point worked with the Emmons company, to other pieces that are just interesting, and probably we may be offering some that are not costume jewelry. We'll see what happens. And watch for those on my personal Facebook page. And I am in the process of beginning a new life, and so a lot of things are going to be coming up. And many things will be going, a few things will be kept. And at the end of this month, well, first week of June, I will be moving back to Central Illinois, and I will be doing so with a lot less stuff. And you know, I've been shepherding this stuff for a long, long time. And I always thought I was keeping it for posterity. But when the moment came, that is not what happened. And hello to Lilith in the chat room. And Lilith asks if I'm sure I want to sell my mother's belongings, and it just feels so personal. And you know, want is not necessarily the word. It's what I must do at this time. But you know, I'm also comfortable with it in the sense that what I had thought would happen, which was passing on this collection intact, is not a possibility. I'm looking at this as a final gift from my mother, or one of the final gifts from my mother. And it will allow me to make a new start going forward in what might otherwise be a much less positive situation. As it is, I'm feeling pretty good about it. Hello to Diane in the chat room. And, you know, Diane, I appreciate you very much. Hello to Arlene. So a lot of interesting things coming. Some of these are pieces of Corellian history. Only chance you're likely ever to have to buy some of these things. I think that you'll find some very interesting offerings. And I hope that people if I hope that if you feel that my work has been important to you, if you wish to support me, that you will find this a good way to do so. It's a way to help me to restart my life in a new direction while also getting something valuable in return. Hello to Deb in the chat room. Good to see you. Of course, if anyone just wants to make a gift, I wouldn't turn it down, but I'm not asking for that. I'm offering things of, in many cases, unique historical value that you can have a piece of me to hold on to. And I'm, and it gives me much greater pleasure to see these things go to members of the tradition that I headed for so many years and of which I am still one of the first priests, rather than to strangers or just to wherever they might have gone. One of the things about this whole situation is that, in a manner of speaking, I died back on February 10th. I'm still here, but it's not the same life. Um, and the things I carried for so many years with the old life, circumstances just are not allowing me to carry forward. I take that as being the hand of spirit. Um, it's what needs to happen. It's what spirit wants to happen. And so it must happen. And I feel already, I feel unencumbered in a way that I don't know that I ever have before, because my whole life I was the bearer of the family heritage, which included this library and these jewels. Um, and to let them go now is a bittersweet moment, but it also is a moment of personal liberation. Because I will be going on, I mean, of course, I'll always be Reverend Don. I'm still, as I say, one of the first priesthood. But in a lot of ways, I'm going on as Don, something that I don't know that I've ever been before. And not having to carry all these things is, in its way, a great liberation to me. So, it's six of one and half a dozen of the other. There's good, there's bad. Um, and as I say, the most precious pieces I am planning to hold back for myself, like the necklace I'm wearing today. Um, I regard it as a protective piece. It's been for years on ancestor altars. Um, and I am keeping it in that sense that it's a special piece, but I don't need every piece of jewelry my grandmother owned. Hello to Mark. Welcome to the chat room. Hello to Arlene. But for you, this is a chance to buy some things that once belonged to heads of this tradition that will probably never be available, certainly not like this again. And some of them are of value. My mother, her jewelry collection is all over the place. Some of them are quite valuable pieces, others are not. They amused her, they were interesting to her. One of the things that is most unusual, there are like little country hat earrings, which I assume that she wore to go out, probably before I was ever born, because I was not the child of youth. But it's Central Illinois. My father had a much greater appreciation of country music. I actually have developed some appreciation over the years, though I didn't particularly have it in youth. So I'm sure they went out to country clubs at that time, where country music was being played, and she had these little cowboy hat earrings, not valuable but interesting. And then there are one of the pieces is an anniversary set that my father gave to her on their 30th anniversary. It's a full parure from 1974, I believe, 1973. Yeah, it should be 1973 for the 30th anniversary because they married in 43. And I don't know where you'd find one like it today. So if you're into vintage jewelry, it's quite the collection. And with the books, not all of my books are equally valuable, but it was quite the library. And Hello to Sean in the chat room. And Sean says, "You're fantastic. Love listening." Thank you, Sean. That's very kind of you. Um, so all of these things are coming, but again, um, I am keeping certain things for myself. I have a large collection of books on the subject of art because I'm a visual artist. Um, but most of those are going to be coming to this sale. What I will be keeping are a few books that have sentimental meaning to me or that are so rare that I know that I could not replace them. There's a series of museum guides from the 1950s and 60s that I've had since I was a small child, which were in many ways my introduction to world art. I don't plan to get rid of them, and they're also, I mean, they're little paperback pieces that museums either sold or gave away. And you know, what is it, 70 years later, in some cases, of course, they've seen some wear and tear. I don't think they would actually bring much, but I do wish to keep those. Um, and plus, they're still an excellent reference, although all of that I can find online today. That's the other thing about parting with the library. Except for a few things, whatever I need, I can find online. I know that. There are things that I can't. There are books here that I know have not made their way online and probably never will. Some of those will be for sale and some of them will not. Welcome to Vivian in the chat room. Thank you for being here. Um, the set of white books that you see over my shoulder probably isn't going to be up, but the sets that you see on over the other shoulder probably will. And I may even change my mind with the Encyclopedia of the Bizarre, which is the white set. Um, but it contains a lot of things that in one place that I don't know of existing online in that same way. Hello to Jason. Jason is my nephew. He's helping with the move. Thank you so much, Jason. Um, and we need to coordinate some things, but we'll talk later. And yeah, also some statuary that I have painted by hand. In some cases, sculpted by hand. Altar pieces will be coming. Um, a lot of things will be coming. I'm not certain about my antiques. I'm not planning to take them. Um, and so I'm assuming they will probably make it into this as well, but we'll see what happens. Lots and lots of things. And so keep watching, and there'll be many things to choose from. And I appreciate everyone who's supporting me in this. And I've been fortunate and blessed in that I've always had support when I needed it. And I like to think that's because my work has touched so many people, even if I say so myself. Um, and I certainly intend to continue working, to continue writing, to continue teaching, to continue artwork. Um, and I feel like the future is bright, but the immediate moment requires certain actions. Now, Arlene asked, where can we find the jewelry and altarpieces for sale? Watch my personal Facebook page. They'll be appearing there. They'll be starting later today. And also Sir Ed Hubbard's personal Facebook page. They'll be coming through these two media. And Vivian remarks that garnet is my birthstone. I hope you have some more garnet pieces left. And yes, I probably do. We shall see what day they go up on, but garnet is the High-Corel family stone. It was the symbol of the family leadership, and so there are a number of garnet pieces. But that also means that I'm more inclined to hold on to some of those, but there are some that are going to make their way in. I think there may be some ruby pieces, but I don't know if I'm going. The few pieces of really good jewelry, I'm probably not going to part with at this moment because what am I going to sell tomorrow if I need to? But some of them will. I believe my mother's good pearls will probably show up in this sale, though not yet, but soon. Some of the pieces occasionally may need some repair. I mentioned the anniversary set. The pendant that is part of that parure has lost its chain. It's actually already been sold, and the person who took it knows how to make the needed repair, and I'm very happy for that. So far, I couldn't be more delighted with the people who have been getting these pieces, and many fine things will be offered. Um, the pieces of jewelry you see me wearing on this program, I basically regard as my personal pieces. They probably aren't going to be included, but they might be. I mean, we'll see what needs to happen. Um, and again, um, I'm not going to say there's no emotion attached to the situation. But by and large, my feeling is that this really is a liberation for me going forward as Don, um, which is something I've never really been before. You have to remember, I took on the first priesthood at the age of 15. Um, I've never been an adult who was not also conserving the family heritage, conserving the tradition, moving it forward. And I always put that ahead of myself. And of course, again, I'm still one of the first priesthood. I'm still part of the tradition. I'm still part of that mother temple. But for the first time, I can actually look at my own life in a way that I never have before. Um, and hello to Brian in the chat room. And Brian remarks that ruby is their birthstone. There could be a ruby show up in this. And in fact, I happen to have a ruby tie-tack that I might throw in if you're looking specifically for rubies. And of course, it could also be used in other ways, a lapel pin, an earring, and we'll see what else. There may be some other things I know. Well, we'll see what else I can find. And some of the more historic pieces, I have my grandfather's diamond and ivory stick pin for his ties, which at that time were more like cravats. Probably not putting that in, but there may be others. Um, and as I was saying, my mother had in many cases, um, most of this is costume jewelry, but it's good costume jewelry. Not every piece, but a lot of it, and many of them are in their original boxes also. One of the pieces I was photographing yesterday to put up today was a necklace, rather uncharacteristic for my mother, but she was younger when she would have worn this, and it's a vivid blue. And my mother's preferred colors for stones were brown, black, or blue. Um, and this is still in its original Emmons box. Probably has the name of the set on the back. I would have to look again. There was a set called Silver Maple in the form of maple leaves, still in their original box, or at least the brooch was. And Brian says, please feel free to tell me and name your price. Well, I will certainly do that. Thank you, Brian. Deb says, I meditate with your mother often. It would be a treasure to be a keeper of one of her pieces. That's wonderful, Deb. I would love to see you have something. And over the next many days, because there are 400 pieces, we'll be posting a lot of pictures. I'm going to try to do 20 pictures a day. Each will have a number, so you can indicate exactly what you want if you want a piece. And it will, of course, include the price. Some of these have sold before I even had a chance to get them up. But I can't. I'm very happy for that. But there are many others coming, and my mother, depending on how things go, I hope to include some stories with some of these pieces. I mentioned the anniversary set. One of the things about my mother, very concerned with color and of course with style. I don't think people would have thought of her as being a fashion plate exactly, but she was very concerned with these things, and she was always concerned that her colors coordinate, and she was very concerned with how they interacted with her complexion and her appearance. Um, she preferred above all shades of brown and taupe for colored jewelry because she thought they were especially flattering to her particular complexion. Her pearls, her real pearls, were champagne colored pearls, um, or oyster colored pearls. I think that's the designation. Pure white pearls, although you see them in her costume jewelry, but in her real jewelry, she felt that having the pure white pearls was not flattering to her, um, particularly with the real ones. Um, and this is because she came from a mixed race background, and like most people of that day, she was trying to downplay that. She was not ashamed of it, but she understood the world she was living in, and so she would choose colors that did not emphasize the brown tone of her complexion. When she wore makeup, it tended to make her look a little more pale. If you look at some of the photos, if you compare her formal photos to her informal photos, this can be very obvious sometimes. And in when I was growing up in the 70s, I don't know that I really understood that, but looking at the world today, I totally get it. Um, it it's also why the women in my family often tended to marry, for want of a better way to put it, the whitest husbands they could find. It moved them forward in the world. And they had to think about their posterity, what was going to happen to the family, where safety lied. And they did. They were always working for the future. And I certainly will continue to do that. Vivian asked if I will bless these pieces of jewelry and books before sending them out. I certainly could do that, yes. Um, and thank you for suggesting that, Vivian. I will certainly do that. I think that's a good suggestion. Or at least if people ask me, I will do it, and I think I will do it in general. To be honest, well, this has all come up so quickly that I had not considered that. But the first pieces of jewelry have not yet gone out, and so I will in fact put a blessing to them in addition to the blessings they already hold. Um, and yeah, it, it's going to be an interesting offering, and I hope that people will find things that they would like to have. And as I say, there will be currently it's books and jewelry. There will be statuary. There will be altar pieces. Because I just cannot carry it all forward. Part of that is logistical. Part of it is emotional. It has been a privilege to carry these things, but also a weight. Um, since since stepping down as chancellor, I've lost a great deal of weight. Um, since retiring in office as first priest, I've lost a great deal of weight, and I incline to think um, that has a lot to do with the office itself, because I do feel like there's a lot of weight off my shoulders. And Deb remarks that she was late arriving. Where is the sale located? You can find it on my personal Facebook page and also on Sir Ed Hubbard's personal Facebook page. We'll be using both of our personal Facebook pages, and that is the place where we're putting them. I believe that parts of it will show up in my Instagram as well. Um, and as far as I know, those are the places to look. And many of the books are already up. Of course, there are thousands of books. There are a lot more coming. But many of them are already there to be seen. Some of them are already sold. The jewelry will be coming up this afternoon. Um, and for probably most of this month, every day there's going to be more. And yeah, I very much appreciate the support that I'm receiving. Not necessarily just the financial support, but also the personal support um, as I go forward with my life. And yeah, this sort of change certainly does um, tell you who your true friends are. And I certainly am paying attention. Of course, I've always tried to pay attention to that, but it's very gratifying to have so many people be so supportive. And in this case, by supporting these sales, you also get something good. You may find a book that you're never going to find otherwise. You may find a piece of jewelry that you really like, particularly if you're into vintage jewelry. A collection of this size does not come into sale all that often. A collection of this size doesn't exist that often. I mean, my family collected jewelry on a massive scale. Um, and like I say, my personal pieces, I do plan to keep, for the most part, my personal pieces. But some of those may be coming up too. I mentioned the ruby tie tack. I'm not sure if I'm going to go back to wearing ties or not. So a number of tie tacks may come up. A number of other pieces may come up. Because you know how much jewelry does one man need to own? Um, as long as it was important to public appearances, and I certainly will still be making public appearances. Um, but you know, I have Jason remarks that in that we were rather like the English royal family. On a more modest scale, it kind of is comparable. I don't think in I don't think among the leadership of pagan traditions there was anything like this collection. Um, and as I say, I had always thought that it would be passed down intact, but obviously that's not what Spirit wants. And I see the benefit of individual Corellians being able to have these pieces and spreading their energy out throughout the tradition. I see why that is good energetically. Um, so I understand why Spirit has moved in this way. So in my mind, that's really part of what I'm doing. I'm taking what I had been the sole custodian of and sharing it with many people who will carry it forward. And of course, some of them aren't going to, but I think most will. And I think that Spirit will help the pieces get to the people who will most appreciate them. And so, in a manner of speaking, that energy of the High Corel family, instead of being concentrated in one set of hands or a few sets of hands, will be spread out to many people. I do know that not everyone in the family is happy about this, but they all understand the circumstances. Um, I understand that Spirit wants this. I'm at peace with it, um, but I also really don't have a lot of choices in how I'm proceeding. Um, and Julia in the chat room, hello Julia. She asks if my Facebook page is under Lord Don or another name. It should be Reverend Don Lewis, or REV Don Lewis, or just plain Don Lewis. You should be able to find it that way. Let me put it in the chat room. And yes, it is Rev Don Lewis. And I will just, oh, you probably won't see it though in this chat room, but I'm going to put it there just in case. So it's facebook.com/Rev Don Lewis, and you can find it there. You'll also find parts of it at facebook.com/Ed A. Hubbard. And there you go. And so I thank you for listening to me ramble about this for half an hour. And I thank you for your support. And you know, I love you all, and I have spent my lifetime in service to the Corellian people. I plan to remain in service, but as I say, at the same time, and for the first time, I plan to have my own life too, beyond being the custodian of the legacy. I was very young when I took it on, and I carried it for 44 years. Um, Now I'm sharing it with you. And there we go. So thank you, and we will close with a prayer as we always do, and then I will see you on Monday. But watch my page and Edward's page for things coming up. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for all that you do for us in our lives, and we pray that we will go forward with you together, hand in hand, for many years to come. We know that the living and the spirits are not truly separate, but stand together, and that as long as our ears are open, we can hear each other. We can speak together. If our eyes are open, we will see each other, because we are not truly separate. Beloved ancestors, beloved spirit guides, beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, we thank you with great love and with respect, and may you blessed be now and always. And thank you, and much love to you, and may you blessed be now and always too. And we'll see you on Monday.